Now that you have your console set up physically the way you want it, there are a few more steps we want to take in the software to make sure that your console is ready to start programming your new show. We basically want to clear the memory or take some steps to make sure that there's no residual information in the console from the previous show or from any other programming that may have been done on the console. So there are a few key steps that we want to take you through at this point to do that. The first thing we want to do is we want to reset the system, and this is basically just going to clear everything out. It's a good habit to get into to do this before every show. That way you know you're starting from scratch at the same point every time. Now to do this, go into your setup display. Are you pushing the setup key? And we'll do a more detailed overview of everything in the setup display in another chapter. But for our purposes now, we just want to take you through a couple of steps. Once you're in the setup display, option number 4 is clear functions. So you can hit 4 on your keypad and enter. That will take you into the clear functions menu. Now down here at soft key number 1 is the soft key called reset system. That is basically the command you want to do. So you hit S1, and again your command prompt will say to clear the entire system. Press enter. Now remember, this is going to erase everything. Go ahead and press enter, and the board will reset itself. And now you're back to basically the way the board came from the factory. The next thing you're going to want to make sure you do is, again, in the setup menu, you want to go in and in clear functions again, number 4, and then enter. We want to reset our patch 1 to 1. This is option number 9. So I'm going to hit 9, enter. And our command prompt again will say to reset your patch, press enter. And I'm going to press enter. And now what I've done is I've set the patch what we call 1 to 1. What this does is it takes dimmer 1 and puts it at channel 1, and dimmer 2 at channel 2, and so on and so forth. And this basically means dimmer per channel. It's the most straightforward way to run your system. That way, if you want dimmer number 1 turned on, you just bring up channel number 1. It's quite simple. The last thing you're going to want to do before you start programming is make sure that you make a decision on whether or not you want your Grandmaster and your blackout button enabled. Your blackout button, essentially, when you hit the blackout button, you're going to turn off all the lights instantaneously. So you have to make sure if that's a feature that you want to have or not. And the Grandmaster is similar, except as you pull the Grandmaster down, your lights will dim with the Grandmaster, again, all of your lights. So you want to make sure that whether or not, because sometimes you might accidentally hit one of those, so make a decision ahead of time whether or not you want those enabled. To do that, I go back to my main setup display, and in option number 1, I have system settings. And in system settings, I have here number 8 and number 10. Number 8 gives me the option to enable or disable the blackout key. In this case, I have it enabled, but I could type 0, enter, and my display will now show that the blackout key has been disabled. And I can do the same thing for my master. So I do 10, enter. My command prompt will tell me that I have 3 different modes for the Grandmaster. Option 0 is to disable it. Option number 1 is to make it a Grandmaster. And option number 2 is to make it a sub-Grandmaster. I'm going to go ahead and disable my Grandmaster just to avoid any accidental change in the light level or accidentally hitting the blackout button. That's usually not a very nice thing to do during a show. And once I have those steps completed, I am ready to begin programming.